Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of PTR Perspective, where we are speaking to experts in the electric mobility sector at Green Auto Summit in Stuttgart, Germany. And this is our last discussion. And my last guest today is Mr. Nicolai Wojciechowski, and he is the VP Sales with Virta. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Nicolai, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? I'm sure our listeners already know about the company, but maybe a little bit about the company and especially your journey in this e-mobility sector.
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. It's actually my 10 years anniversary, so I'm quite happy. Yes, I never stayed 10 years in an industry before. I actually started in January 2014.
Wow.
At Hubject. I led the business development team for 3 years, and then I moved over to Virta. Starting as a sales director in the Berlin office. We founded the Berlin office. It was the first office outside of Helsinki, which is still to this day the headquarter of Virta. When I started at Virta, we actually were 10 Finns and 1 German. That was me. So it was quite a ride. And it was 1st of October 2016. It was a small family back then. It grew actually already for me to quite a significant stage when we were invited to take part in something that is called in Finland the Polar Bear Pitch event. You might have heard about that. You go into ice cold water. There are companies, startups from all around the world go in ice cold water, and you have approximately 2 to 3 minutes to deliver your pitch. You can take longer, but it really hurts after 2 minutes. So it took us 2 minutes, 41 seconds to deliver our pitch, and we actually won. And we were sent to Palo Alto, and that was for Virta back then a really, really big honor. And today we are in 8 offices around the world. We have just opened the Bangkok office, but of course our key focus is still in Europe. And I'm nowadays the Vice President of Sales and Managing Director for Virta DACH and the CE markets, and lead a team of roughly 20 people.
Wow, what an amazing journey. First question I have asked for everyone's perspective on this, and that is the year 2024 for our industry. How do you see it from European point of view, and where are we headed towards?
I want to say the positive news up first, or up front. The future is electric, battery electric, no doubt about that. It is a market phase. This is difficult for everyone in the market. We see that a lot of companies coming from an era of low interest rates, where money was seriously cheap, are now staggering to actually make their business case profitable and look for additional funding. This is one of the major factors. It is not the only one. Second one is, of course, the overall economy has been slowing down quite rapidly. Plus EV sales are not the best. And that still pertains to policymakers and so on. So we have at least 3 factors that are impacting charge point operators, CPMS charging platforms like us, hardware manufacturers quite heavily, everything that is super capital expensive. And companies that have not done their homework are simply struggling heavily. And we see this now on a weekly basis. I was joking during a break with a colleague from another company that half of the market in Germany seems to be on sale at this point. So it is quite a challenging time. But I want to say that we are convinced that this is a consolidation phase of roughly 12 to 15 months. It will be quite brutal and quite rapid. But we will see a more profitable, a more robust, and a more customer-centric charging market emerging out of this.
And the factors that you mentioned, they all led to this consolidation, or were there other outside factors such as, overall automotive sector kind of struggling as well? Do you think that also led to this consolidation phase?
Yes. That we don't have a full commitment on battery electric e-mobility being the future in Europe is obviously a really big problem. Germany specifically is suffering from, of course, electric vehicle subsidies being introduced and then taken away overnight. This is poison to an industry that has been relying on subsidization. And the third topic is when we go actually 2 years back, many have forgotten about that. There was a global shortage of equipment, a global shortage of delivery goods. And this led to what actually was facing the e-mobility industry back then, to a shortage of hardware in the market, charging hardware, AC, DC. There was nothing available. There was crazy delivery times of 6 months for an AC station. And what happened after that? Many companies, being used to cheap money, invested a lot in stock. And now the tables have turned. There's a lot of hardware in the market, a surplus of hardware in the market. So the hardware prices dropped tremendously. Many companies are sitting on millions of stock. They cannot sell, or if they sell at a loss.
Wow.
And that is the reality why hardware manufacturers are impacted, why CPOs are impacted. Without a sustainable business model coming from digital revenues, but actually from selling hardware revenues, are of course now suffering, because it's hard to come back from that.
Very interesting. Wow. And you talked about other players, other stakeholders. Power grid is a key, stakeholder, or let's say piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And how do you see it? There's a lot of debate that how power grid can become a bottleneck, or is becoming bottleneck to some extent in some areas. How do you see this, and whose role is it? Who needs to do better in this, so that power grid, which is an enabler of all of this, should not become a bottleneck or a roadblock?
I'm happy that you bring that up. There's a lot of different philosophy in the e-mobility ecosystem. From which angle should you actually tackle the ecosystem? It is quite a complex ecosystem. It is derived out of many factors: the payment industry, the automotive industry, the energy industry, specifically the electricity market, which is a lot more complex than actually the other parts of the electricity market. For example, natural gas. Electricity is so complex. Brings the highest complexity. We as Virta believe that the ecosystem must be thought through from the electric market, from the electric grid, because that's the ultimate goal. We don't need a car to go from A to B electric to revolutionize the future. What we need is to make dead assets smart. And a battery electric vehicle is nothing else than a big battery on wheels. And it will be idle, as well as internal combustion engines. But when it is idle, we can connect it to the grid, and we can use it for load management. We can use it for demand response. We can use it for selling flexibility, for buying flexibility. Those are actually profitable use cases, highly profitable use cases. We are, as a matter of fact, connected to the frequency containment reserve in Finland, serving as a part of the equation to stabilize the grid, being able to drop 1 megawatt in less than 4 seconds. And for this, we already get paid. And this is, for many companies, a profitable use case and a goal to work to when enabling fleet charging, when enabling e-mobility, because your cars, those assets, they will be idle. And what you do is you need to find ways on how to connect them to the electric grid. And that is for Virta the key objective. And that's actually a fun side fact. Virta is a Finnish name, and if you translate it into English, it means power.
Interesting. And the use case that you talked about, very interesting. So basically, you're directly contributing to the frequency response market of, yes, the country. And I think maybe there is more need of an education sort of approach. Not everyone is aware that this is a role that EVs can play. As you mentioned, just basically big batteries on wheels, and they can be a big resource for the power grid. What do you think is missing here? Why are we not moving at a pace? Because what you mentioned on this, electrical utilities would spend millions, to have all the backups And because it's all connected grid, you can have one part of the grid support another. So if what you just described exists throughout the region, then we can expect the grid to be much more stronger than what it is right now. What is lacking right now? Why is it not spreading much faster than what the pace that it is increasing right now?
Yeah, and your question is absolutely justified. And I'm coming back to also your first question. What is the role of the DSO or the TCO? Transmission system operator and distribution system operators, they have a crucial role. First of all, they have a crucial role because we need to connect those assets, charging stations, to their grid. And for everything that is above low voltage, you need to have a permission. And those permission, this process of receiving a permission is not regulated. And that causes high uncertainty, frustration for those projects to actually go live. Sometimes it takes 3 months to just get a reply, there is enough capacity available. And then file for an energy transformator being connected to the grid and getting all the permissions needed in that specific region of, for example, Germany, and Germany being the most complex of all.
Very fragmented.
Very fragmented for TSOs.
TSOs and 700-800 DSOs.
Yes, it is. It doesn't get more complex. It is really a problem. In Finland, you have one transmission system operator. One. We know all the people working there. In UK, you have one TSO. You have, I think, roughly 11 DSOs. It's quite straightforward. Totally liberated energy market. Very dynamic. Very innovative. There you can already deliver V2G projects, vehicle to grid projects, charging back into the grid. It is where we all need to go, where whole of Europe needs to move. But that is only the one side of the coin. In the future, hopefully, the other side of the coin is the legislation is very, very slow. The companies are usually in favor to have a standardization supporting them and their business model. Many of them are operating a grid, meaning they are operating the infrastructure you others want to work with. So there's always a bit of a biased situation, and that's why the nature of things is slow.
So, Nicolai, why the friction? So, if I think intuitively, it's a win-win for all the parties. But then, where does this friction come from?
The friction comes from the grid. At the end of the day, the grid, of course, needs to be capable of handling all those additional high power charging units. One AC station is not a problem. Even one DC station is not a problem.
Stations.
Multiple charging hubs.
Yes.
Where you have 1, 2, 3 megawatts going online in one region. You compile all the available energy in this region for this charging hub.
Be concentrated.
The rest in a parameter of, I don't know, a kilometer or two gets zero. It needs significant infrastructure investment to build up another charging hub, all the grid stability in the same region. So that is part of the problem. And the energy system is based on assets that are centralized. A centralized coal plant, a centralized nuclear power plant. But it's not built on renewables generating energy decentralized. Being able to also move this generated electricity from left to right, from north to south. You know perhaps about the big political debate that a lot of wind-generated electricity in Germany is generated in the north, but it's needed in the south. So how do you get it there? How do you actually get the energy where you generate it to the source where it's needed?
You have to have the transmission lines and
exactly. And it is not an easy task, because then you need to ask yourself, who's responsible for that? Who's paying for that? But we inevitably need it. So this is unfortunately one part of the complex ecosystem e-mobility is in, where hopefully it comes clear that for us there's no alternative. It's inevitable to think about a different philosophy than the electric grid. Every use case you want to scale brings you back to the shortages or the possibilities of what the electric grid can be, could be, if we implement the measures that are needed.
Right. And Nicolai, if we talk about MSPs,
Yes.
How do you see the future? Do you see different business models coming to the equation moving forward?
There are a couple of scenarios we are running through, and we are checking regarding the future of EMSP solutions. First off, we don't see a profitable business case. Not one.
Okay.
Why is that? The customers are not sticky. Every electric vehicle driver can hook up to many charging services as they want. Many come with just a pay-as-you-go fee, not a subscription fee. So you are not sticky,
right,
to an ecosystem here, unless you go, of course, the American way, the Tesla way. There you have a closed ecosystem.
Closed networks.
Exactly. Totally different thing. The other networks don't work that way. So how do you monetize that? We don't know. The only way we know is fleet.
Right.
There's a big buzz around public charging, and many figures proposed by the government. 1 million charging points. How many even in Europe? I forgot the number because it's so ridiculous. Why is it ridiculous? Approximately 70-80% of all electric vehicle drivers will charge in the future at work or at home. And if they charge public, they will charge where it's convenient. And we believe that they will use either free charging because it's hooked to additional services, or they will go for fast charging.
Right.
Because it's convenient. You go shopping 20 minutes, you're done, car is fully charged, you go have another 500, 600 kilometers of range. Very easy. Where's the role of the EMP here? It's difficult. But when you start from the private sector, it becomes more interesting. Many of our customers want to offer charge at work, charge at home, and charge in public. It's the latest one factor in the equation. So what I just mentioned is many discussions are about public infrastructure. In my view, in our view, it is not leading to a full picture. It's only painting part of the picture because the majority is going to charge in those two other places, at work and at home. Those you can serve with a fleet solution. You can also upgrade it to more customer groups, even to commercial vehicle fleets, which are willing to pay for a charging service that is reliable, that they can integrate into their fleet services. So in this regard, I see a big future for EMSP services. In the pure public sector, it is very difficult to make a profitable business case and to actually be able to calculate it. If we just stay to what I've said already, one factor that is impacting the EMP public case tremendously is, of course, being introduced by the A4 regulation, that all public charging points need to be accessible via direct payment, via a payment terminal. Now, today we see in our platform, European-wide, two-digit millions of charging sessions starting. We see less than 5% coming from one-time payment or direct payment. The rest is coming from subscription-based payments, charging cards, app charging. That's it. Now, as we see that a lot of new infrastructure, charging stations with integrated payment terminals are deployed in the public space, we might see a different view if the pricing is attractive, if the charging is working, and if the locations are great. Then we might see even more pressure for public EMPs to justify their prices, their business case, and hooking up to their subscription services.
But not as of now. Right now, the fleet and residential applications are the ones which would be in focus.
Already there, you can calculate a serious business case. And it makes sense from a company perspective, I think, because you can allow your fleet and those can be quite differently structured. Company car users, pool cars, employees coming to work with their private EV. You can allow them to charge at work for a tariff. You want to subsidize, you don't want to subsidize. You can give them the advantage to charge at home with their wall box, which they buy through you or with your preferred partner. They use the same app. They use the same charging card. They can even use their ID tag. They use to enter the office because they can hook it up to their app. And then once they go shopping, they can also use with the same card the public infrastructure. I think this is quite sticky. And, just using a card or an app for those three charging cases is one thing. To then have more value-added services, for example, a routing system, a reservation feature, that's where you can offer something, I think, that sticks and where also customers are willing to actually subscribe for a service.
Come back again and again. Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Last question, Nicolai. What are if you were to really pick 1-2 key trends that you think that will shape our industry the next 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10.
Yes, like mid to long term sort of time scale. What would those be?
Energy market integration. Because energy market integration can turn non-profitable business cases profitable. One example, all our customers, partners reaching out to us, wanting to invest in public spaces, semi-public spaces like retail chains, commercial malls. We always calculate a business case, an ROI. It all comes down, at the end of the day, you have a lot of variables, but it all comes down to procurement price for energy. It's the biggest source. Of course, if no one is charging, it sucks. But people will be charging because you have a great mall. But then, what is your profit margin? What is it depending on? Let's assume all the operations running smoothly. It depends on your procurement price. So from where do you procure energy and for what price or for which price? So for those business cases, in order to be secure and have a definite component to be profitable, you need to move forward and actually procure energy with a different way of procuring energy in a linear market system as a commodity. You need to buy it actually at the spot market with a structured procurement process. Perhaps this type of commodity, this type is spot market based. And of course, investing in own energy generation. This is what we see already today is having heavily positive impacts on business cases. And it actually turns also depot charging for AC upside down. If you have all of those vehicles being idle, you can compile all the flexibility of all the batteries together, and you can put this in the frequency containment reserve with a bit, and you get money for it. And charging can actually be for free. So part of our vision goes in this direction, but I can tell this already today. Today, our business case is digital, and then, of course, our integrated hardware model. But in 2030, there's a big fraction already built in energy. And that's where it comes from.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nicolai. Thank you so much for sharing all the insights. I'm sure our listeners and viewers got a lot of information, a lot of insights from your side. And this is a wrap up from my side as well. I hope that this special series from Green Auto Summit was helpful in you understanding some of the key trends, what is shaping this industry right now, and what should we be expecting. Thank you so much.